In the frozen hush of the void, Earth drifted like a discarded trinket, scarred, forgotten, and left to rot. They had called it a judgment for peace, a necessary containment. But for Daniel Reich, captain of the Archangel, it was nothing but exile, cold and merciless. The Galactic Council had cloaked the decision in ceremonies, layered it with diplomatic fluff and synthetic remorse. But the truth was simple. They'd locked an entire species out of the galactic core and slammed the gates. Daniel remembered the moment they cut humanity off. The hyperlane jump gates orbiting Earth flickered red, then black. Access revoked. No traffic in, none out. Trade halted. Aid withdrawn. Even the synthetics, supposedly impartial envoys of the Council, powered down their orbital hubs and drifted away. Earth was severed, alone. The cause? An incident on Cygnus 9, a cooperated mining colony staffed by human and Threxian workers. A fight broke out, turned bloody. A Threxian noble's son impaled by a human X-rig. A tragic accident. Daniel saw in the logs, but no one cared. That death unraveled everything. The trials were theater. Earth's envoys were muted, erased. The verdict followed: indefinite suspension from the galactic network. Humanity reclassified as an isolated origin species, a contamination to be contained. But they miscalculated one thing: humans don't vanish quietly. The Archangel was forged in that silence. A massive interstellar warship crafted not by nations, but by scavengers, rogue engineers, and deserters. With no governments left to authorize her, she rose from ruin stitched, together with rage and desperation. Daniel stood at her forward observation deck, staring into endless night. His weathered face bore the years he hadn't lived, deep, eyes searching as though waiting for the stars to betray him. A jagged scar cut down his temple to his jaw, keepsake from the New Geneva riots during the Food War. No uniform now, just black field gear and a coat lined with radiation mesh. Out here, there were no ranks, just survivors. Behind him, the ship pulsed alive and awake. Half the crew were trained personnel, the rest mercs, convicts, and ghosts. They had nothing left but the ship, and the ship moved like a living beast, silent, immense, and starved. The comms buzzed. Captain, scan complete Sector 8, Gamma, derelict Threxian freighter. Looks promising. Daniel's lips didn't move, but his voice tightened, cold and deliberate. Send boarding teams. Strip it. Leave a message. They didn't need instructions. They knew the ritual. A jagged handprint carved into the hull. Beneath it, 3 words in old Earth script: we remember everything. The Council had bet on human decay, that without their trade, tech, and treaties, Earth would implode. And it did. But instead of dying, they evolved. They began to build pirate jump gates cobbled from stolen blueprints, tech smuggled through forgotten channels, alliances forged with the outer fringe, those alien species labeled too unstable, too primitive. One by one, humanity through treaties, but raids, threats, offers you couldn't refuse. Let us dock, or we turn your moons into ash. That was the new diplomacy. Daniel didn't care for peace. Peace was the lie that stabbed Earth in the back. Now, all he wanted was for the stars to understand. Humanity didn't die. They waited. And now, they were done waiting. The Archangel banked toward the next system, a trade route near the Mara cluster. Daniel's thoughts drifted back to the tribunal. The faces of those council members, how they smiled, cloaked in reason, as they voted his kind into oblivion. One day, he thought not to beg, to conquer. He turned from the viewport and strode toward the bridge. Set course, he ordered. Next, targets a fuel depot. Council-backed, make it loud. If reason had failed, then fear would speak. The stillness before the strike was always the hardest. Daniel sat in the command chair, fingers tapping steel, as the Archangel glided under full cloak toward the Marak cluster's edge. Below them hung Fuel Depot CXS-7, a minor council facility, orbiting a plasma-rich asteroid belt, a logistical hub, manned by contract species, guarded by 3 patrol frigates. Nothing serious, meant to be safe. Their mistake. Status. Daniel asked. LT. Merrick, weapons officer, never turned from his console. Cloak. Stable 98%. No signs of detection. Newcom chatter. Where ghosts? And boarding crew. Alpha and Bravo 40 heads. Total. They want blood. Daniel nodded. Once, let them have it. No prisoners, no applause, no speeches. Just the silent pact. This was justice. Not war, not negotiation. Just vengeance. He closed his eyes. Behind them, Earth still decayed. Not in flame, but in famine. Weather collapse. Ration riots. The poor died unseen. The strong scavenged. And the council. They called it moral realignment failure. A failed experiment. But Earth had adapted. And now, here they were in this rusted, weaponized Leviathan, drifting through the dark, unbroken, ready jump pods. Daniel said out. The Archangel dipped. Slightly. Its underside opened. 2 pods detached, armored, spike-nosed, packed with warriors. Like steel predators slipping into deep water. 30 seconds, Merrick called out. Daniel stood, walked to the viewport. The depot turned slowly beneath them, quiet, exposed. First was the Threxian freighter. Now this. Next. A relay station. A deliberate path. A growing signal. We are no longer asking. The pods impacted. The bridge lit with feeds. Helmet cams showed. Corridors breached. Guards scrambling. Screams in every language. Blades flashed. Pulse weapons barked. Security drones burst into sparks. Daniel watched only one screen, a corner cam, showing the depot overseer, a Velari bureaucrat, 4 eyes wide, clawing at a dead comms unit. Daniel switched it off. 10 minutes later, Merrick's voice crackled through. Station secured. Fuel, cells intact. Depot tagged. Blow the backups. Leave the core. Daniel replied. Let them come. Then he went to the lower decks. He always did. Not for praise, just presence. The raiders limped aboard, armor-dented boots, stained. Some dragged supplies. Others carried the wounded. No celebration, just breath and blood. Merrick approached, voice flat. They had children, service techs, civilians, contract families. Daniel paused, counseling mixed. We neutralized. No survivors. He stared at Merrick a beat, then nodded. We're not here to parent the stars. The council taught us the rules. We're following them. Merrick said nothing. He walked away, helmet underarm, blood down his face. That night, Daniel sat in his quarters, replaying the feed, over and over. The screams, the shapes in the smoke, the way one tiny being, something between rodent and child, crawled over its dead caretaker. Grasping a medkit, he forced himself to watch. You don't get to look away, he whispered. Not if you gave the order. Beneath the numbness, something stirred. Not guilt, not sorrow. Resolve. This is the cost, he thought. For every child who starved after the agri-systems collapsed. For every colony abandoned to die of red fever. For every voice silenced. Every plea mocked. This is the price of exile. A knock broke the silence, sharp and insistent. The door hissed open. Commander Ray stepped in, wiry, weathered, eyes like razors. We intercepted council chatter. They've noticed how many. 3 fleets on alert. One's rerouting to patrol this sector. Daniel leaned forward. Where to? The relay station. Our next strike. He smiled, cold and sharp. Let them come. She hesitated. There's more. A message. Encrypted, old Earth code, from deep space. Daniel froze. What kind? Military. Obsolete, but human. He stood. Bring it to the bridge. Wake the AI, full decryption. 20 minutes later, the lights dimmed. The AI core spun up. The main screen flickered, green code blinking across. Static. Priority red. Signal origin. Unknown. Sector 01199. To any human vessel receiving this, we survived. They didn't erase us. We're out here, building something they can't stop. Find us. End. TRA and SSIO. In silence gripped the room. Daniel's pulse thundered. He knew that signature. Navicode, from before the collapse, buried with the last admiral. In the ruins of Earth's final fleet. Ray stepped beside him. If it's real, there are others. Fleets, outposts. Not like us. Daniel muttered. Maybe stronger. Do we respond? He turned to Merrick. Trace it. That'll take time. And if the council's watching that bandwidth, they'll know we got it. Daniel stood. Then we move first. Hit the relay station. Make them look that way. Then we vanish. And if it's bait? Merrick asked. Daniel's voice turned to stone. Then we show them what exile taught us. No one argued. Outside, the stars spun on. The council slept in their towers. Sure, that humanity was scattered and silent. They were wrong. Exile didn't break Earth, it reforged it. Relayed Theta 4, a whisper post in Kerno's reach, was the next to fall. It wasn't meant for war, just signals, control, reminder, a floating ear above a dead world. Then the Archangel made sure it stopped hearing. Missiles flared from the ship, silent, blazing, precise. The relay's shield held for 3 seconds, then snapped. The second volley didn't delay. It hit core structures, power hubs, antennae, airlocks. They weren't boarding this time. They weren't leaving survivors. Status, Daniel barked. Drones disabled. Corvette fleeing. Calling backup, Merrick said. Let him. The screens showed the relay rupturing. Fire spilling into vacuum. Bodies flung into space. Daniel gave no orders to stop. No messages. Just silence. Complete erasure. This was their new diplomacy. As the last shard of the station flared out, Daniel turned. Jump drive. Charged and stable, Ray replied. Then go. Full burn. Sector 01199X. Merrick hesitated. That's fringe space. No maps, no allies. Daniel met his eyes. We weren't invited. We don't need permission. The ship surged forward. The stars began. Some from alien species the Council had long abandoned. The galaxy had noticed they're watching now. Ray said softly, stepping beside him. They can't ignore us anymore. No, Daniel said, but they'll try. He leaned forward, eyes locked on the holographic star chart. Then we give them more fear, more doubt. Every system we scorch, every base we break, it etches our name into their bones. We don't stop, not until Earth takes the seat they denied us. Ray gave him a sidelong glance. You're building something bigger than revenge. I have to, he murmured, because if we're not building, then we're just another ghost screaming into the dark. She didn't answer. They stood together a while longer. Captains of a phantom fleet, exiles turned, scourge now rising as the sharpest blade in the consul's throat. And it wasn't over, because fire had been lit, not just on Veles Prime, but across the stars. The quiet after victory was colder than war. Daniel stood alone on the Archangel's observation deck, staring out at the faint shimmer of Veles Prime's sun. It burned steady, uncaring of the violence in its orbit. Days before, to the Star War meant nothing, but to the Council it had meant everything. Reports poured in. Veles Prime lay in chaos. Supply lines cut, production halted, defense protocols triggered across surrounding regions. The Council's illusion of control fractured. But what disturbed Daniel most came later. A message, brief, unencrypted, sent straight to Archangel's encrypted core. Through a bounce relay only an insider could use. Stop now. You've made your point. Go further, and you'll awaken something you cannot control. No name, no signature, just a warning or a threat. Ray entered the room, her steps quiet against the deck plating. She held a slate and a look that told Daniel things were about to shift. Again, Council's issued a decree, she said flatly. Humanity is now a classified rogue threat species. Daniel didn't blink. They're using Veles Prime to greenlight the Black Fleets, she added. That got his attention. Black Fleets, he said. Those are stories, not anymore. Bastion's eyes confirmed sightings. Near Syrian's reach, cloaked, no markings, no signals, just weapons. Daniel exhaled. So the Council's done, pretending we don't exist. They want to erase us before we become hope to others. He turned back to the stars. Then we strike again. Ray hesitated. We need to be careful. We're not just punching fleets now. We're hitting a system that's existed for centuries. One wrong move, and they'll call for extermination. Let them, Daniel replied. They already tried. Earth proves that. She stepped closer, her voice low. We started something. Daniel, a spark. People are watching, even species that never cared before. You want fear, fine, but if we don't lead this right, we become exactly what they said we were. He turned to her, and for the first time in days, something shifted in his eyes. Not doubt, but memory. The old streets of Boston during the power riots, the hunger riots, kids dying for ration bars, mothers trading everything for off-world visas that never came. That was the Council's mercy, you think? I want this, he asked, rough-voiced. You think I enjoy torching planets, sending people to die? I was an engineer. Ray, I wanted to build things, but they gave us no path. They locked the doors and called it order. If we don't fight, then all of it, all of this means nothing. She said nothing because there was nothing to say. Later that cycle, Daniel met Velt inside Bastion's encrypted Comes Suite. Velt looked older than last time, not aged, but worn. New scars marked his neck, faint burns that whispered stories Daniel didn't ask. I got your message, Daniel said. What's the crisis? Velt activated the star map. The Council's deploying in the Cinder Expanse neutral ground. They're hunting now, not just us humans, anyone even suspected of helping Us gets blacklisted. Some sterilized. Daniel's fists curled their choking neutrality. Velt said even the merchants are bending, only a few stand firm. Then we give them a reason, Daniel said. We make them pick a side. Velt studied him. You want to escalate? I want to jolt them awake. They've slept too long. Velt nodded slowly. Then I have something. Council Archive Station. Epsilon, deep core, top-tier black files. If we crack it, we get evidence. Evidence they never wanted seen. What kind of evidence? What they did to Earth, to colonies, to defectors, mass deaths, covert tests, engineered starvation. If we leak that, maybe the galaxy finally sees the truth. Daniel stared as coordinates blinked on screen. Velt uploaded them. It won't be simple. Epsilon's guarded by protocol wards. No orbit, no fly zones. Only way in is via council transport system. We'll need someone inside. Daniel thought, I know someone. Ex-council burned and buried. Maybe still breathing. Velt grunted. Then find him before they tossed that archive into a sun. Back aboard Archangel, Daniel convened his inner crew. Marek Ray Silo, the mechanic who once built council guns before they destroyed his family, and Cass, a smuggler who lost everything to council, seizures, and now flew like vengeance. He outlined the mission. No one blinked. Cass leaned in. You sure this is worth it? Cap, this archive garbage. We've done more damage with fire than we ever will with secrets. Daniel held his gaze. Secrets built this galaxy, Cass. Council doesn't rule by force, they rule by silence. We shatter that silence, we shatter their power. Ray nodded. The galaxies watching most don't care about humans, but they care about justice, truth. We expose the council's rot, and we won't fight alone. Cass cracked his knuckles. Then let's go digging, tracking down Jareen. Voss took 3 days. He was buried under a new name on a mining rock called Ton 8, slowly drinking himself toward death. Daniel found him in a dive bar full of discarded men wearing a synthetic face and a spinal brace. You should have killed me last time, Jareen hissed. You should have died with dignity. Daniel replied, but instead he offered a deal, not mercy, only a job and a promise. Help them breach Epsilon. And what? They found would buy Jareen immortality even. If the council survived, you still believe truth matters? Jareen asked, wheezing. Daniel stared straight into him. No, but fear does, and the truth is the one thing they still fear. As Archangel readied its next jump, Daniel stood in the observation bay, watching the stars blur and fold. He felt it, something changing, not just in him but in all of them. They weren't surviving anymore. They were etching history, one scar at a time. The skies above station Epsilon looked like spilled ink, dark, slow, and threatening to ignite. Daniel stared through the cracked viewport of a stolen council transport. Jaw set. Epsilon spun beneath them. Pristine, a flawless white sphere. No ports, no hatches, no sign of entrance. A pearl birthed from shadow, beautiful, lifeless and unbreakable by design. But that's what Jareen was. For hunched in the pilot's seat, his hands twitched, not from nerves but the aftershocks of abuse and cheap stims. He once ran council security. Algorithms designed the very keys they planned to use. Approach vector confirmed. Jareen muttered, retinal handshake live. They'll read us as medical logistics back from Cygnus 7. They won't scan deeper? Ray asked. Jareen chuckled. Only if they're sober, which none of them are. Daniel didn't relax time. 2 hours inside the hull, we get 7 minutes of blind zone. That's our window. After that, well, you've met council hospitality. Daniel turned to the rear of the vessel where Marek and Silo checked their load, light charges, stealth armor, neural dampeners, nothing heavy. This wasn't war, this was surgery. As they drifted closer, the vessel shook softly. They'd breached the first scan layer. Jareen held up a black glass key and slotted it into the console. As it clicked, the ship jerked. Daniel reached for his pistol, relaxed. Jareen muttered, the shell's opening, and it was the surface below, split, forming a tight shaft lined with magnetic anchors. Coffin chute. Jareen said, it's for bodies they don't want found. I figured they wouldn't miss one. Daniel eyed him. You're a sick bastard. You're the one who hired me. Captain. They descended in silence inside the chute. Gravity shifted boots, locked sideways. Ray took point, planting sensor scramblers every 15 meters, just enough to jam passive scans without tripping alarms. Marek had the pulse rifle. Silo carried the charge packs. Daniel brought up the rear wiping trace. As they moved inside Station Epsilon, nothing made sense. No guards, no drones, just blank halls, pure white surfaces, each door sealed with numbers. No labels. The design was alien in its order. Jareen guided them through an old maintenance shaft. All routes merge at central core, he said, but the data Vault is 20 levels down, 3 biometric locks. You've still got access. Daniel asked. Not mine, Gyrene said, and held up a thin injector from his coat. He stabbed it into the panel. The door sighed open, and the air changed. Colder, not just in temperature, but something else awaited. Quiet, not absence but suppression. This is where the ghosts live. Gyrene muttered. Everything the council buried. Their own sins, atrocities, betrayals, even against their own kind. Daniel felt a storm build inside his chest. Then, let's crack it. The vault was vast rows of tall, glowing hex columns. Reaching floor to ceiling, Gyrene ran ahead, linking with the master console silo deployed security buffers. Marek held position watching the exits. This system holds pabbits of council logs, Gyrene said. Hours to extract, but I'm not just pulling, I'm inserting a live virus to ride system updates. Once we leave it spreads. Daniel stood beside him. What's inside? Gyrene hesitated. Let's see. He tapped the screen. One column darkened. A projection started. Earth colony thriving, kids laughing by food dispensers. Council envoys smiling. Then it all shut off. Envoys gone. Drones patrolled fences. People starved. No explanation, no conflict. Just deprivation. A caption appeared. Reclassification. Test environment. Subject. Resource retraction response. Daniel turned away, hands shaking. Next file showed council officials behind Chloe. Merrick threw a sonic charge behind them that collapsed the hallway. Silo got hit in the leg. Daniel dragged him. The transport bay was in flames, but Archangel was there, cloaked, waiting exactly where Cass had promised. They boarded with seconds to spare. The vault exploded behind them in a silent burst of blue fire that vaporized the core. Daniel threw the chip to Ray. Get it to Velt. Tell him to release it when ready. And he looked out at the void. They started this war with silence. We're going to finish it with screams. The truth hit the galaxy like a meteor. It started as a whisper. Data packets smuggled into merchant channels, quietly passed between ships on fringe routes. Then came the encrypted leaks to neutral observers. The outlaw bans. Finally, Bastion made the call. Ripped the lid off everything. The files from Station Epsilon were nuclear. Holovids of forced sterilization camps. Council meetings approving famine as a control tool. Secret orders to detain human diplomats without trial. Protocol Ashvale. The quiet plan to erase any future human resurgence. Within 48 hours, fringe species called emergency councils. Smugglers cut council contracts to mid-tier factions. The Tari and Karoan syndicates denounced the council outright. The council denied everything. They blamed radicals, claimed deepfakes, but file integrity, stamps and uncrackable encryption proved the data was real. Daniel watched from Archangel's bridge as riots spread. Blockades collapsed. Spokespeople fled planets under threat. They had fought for this. But he didn't smile. The fire was spreading too fast. Ray stood beside him, arms crossed, scarred. They're cracking, but so are we. Explain. She handed him a slate. Bastion's eastern cell broke contact. Velt says they were ambushed. Someone tipped the council. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Saboteurs or traitors. They're panicking. Some allies want to strike again. Others want talks. We don't negotiate. Then we may be alone soon. So be it. 2 days later, on Bastion 4, a shielded moon base, Daniel met Velt. We lost 3 freighters, Velt said. New council stealth tech. We can't see them. Daniel nodded. We build outposts. That takes time and trust. Neither is abundant. Daniel slid the drive across the table. Gyrene's key. Access to council. Systems. Military routes. Choke points. We hit arteries next. Velt stared. Full war. They declared it when they starved our colonies. Gyrene's dead. Throat cut. Dumped on ton. Daniel blinked. He didn't deserve that. No. But someone inside is bleeding us. Back on Archangel, the mood was grim. Fatigue. Paranoia. Every newcomer doubted. Every ship double-scanned. Silo summed it up best over whiskey. This ain't a revolution anymore. It's survival. And survival turns good men into monsters. Daniel heard, didn't answer, because Silo was right. Then came the broadcast. This is Admiral Theon Bra, Galactic Preservation Authority. All ships aiding human insurgents are hostiles. No mercy. Archangel. Surrender Daniel Reich in 72 hours or Earth dies screaming. Ray slammed her fist down. They're targeting Earth. Daniel stood silent. Marek swore. We left Earth to survive. Now they want to finish it. Then we stopped them. You're not going back, are you? Daniel's gaze hardened. I never left. The Council's Black Fleet was en route, 12 dreadnoughts, shatter cannons, bombers. Their goal wasn't occupation, it was erasure. Daniel summoned every human ship, every exile, every outpost. 40 answered frigates, corvettes, even refitted miners. Not a fleet, but enough. They set course for Earth. Daniel stood on Archangel's bridge, Earth growing large, faded blue, weakened green. Still home. To every soul still standing, he said, voice iron. We were exiled, broken, but we're still here. We're not fighting for revenge. We're fighting for what comes next. Let them come. Let them bring their laws. We're not afraid of the dark. To Marek, prepare for impact. Above Earth, stars churned with motion. The Black Fleet loomed, a celestial guillotine. But humanity stood between. Archangel surged, a predator wounded but not dead. First Council frigate tried to block them. Twin rail slugs ripped through it. Torpedoes ignited the wreck. Human ships followed, screaming through chaos. Desperate, furious, lasers lanced the dark. Fighters tangled. Frigates broke apart. Still they fought. Council shatter cannons fired. Human ships dodged, fled, struck back. Daniel roared. Flank right. Shield carriers. Redirect power. Ray bled from her temple. Breach on deck 3. Silo. Hold that breach or we burn. Patching it. Don't crash till I finish my drink. Daniel grinned. Then the dreadnought fired. Beam cut a destroyer in half. The next hit Archangel. Metal tore. Ship spun. Alarms howled. Stabilize. Return fire. They did. Manually. Railguns hit a weak seam. The dreadnought buckled. Explosions rolled across its surface. A reactor burst. Debris flew. Cheers erupted. But 11 more remained. The battle raged an hour. Brutal. Ceaseless. Kamikaze runs. Boarding sabotage. One dreadnought turned its own guns. The enemy broke. Not just in steel. In will. They had expected control. Not defiance. Humanity had nothing left. That made them dangerous. Finally, the flagship Elun Prime pulled away. No surrender. No message. Just shame. 2 days later, Earth was quiet. Skies still burned, but the Black Fleet was gone. The human fleet floated, damaged but victorious. People emerged. From bunkers, from shadows. They looked up, not with fear but wonder. Someone had fought for them. Daniel stood on scorched soil. New Geneva's crater smoking nearby. Ray approached, arm in a sling. Council broadcast an hour ago. They want talks. A humanitarian ceasefire. Daniel laughed. No joy. They lost control, she said. Their own species demand tribunals. He stared. Upward. What do you want to do? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. He didn't know. Vengeance had driven him. But now, he watched families emerge, rebuild, weep, and he knew. We rebuild, not because we forgive, but because we deserve better. And the Council, they'll answer. In time. The galaxy's awake. Now. We'll make sure it remembers. He walked toward the shuttle. Trials to plan. Alliances to forge. Futures to build. Humanity wasn't saved. It saved itself, not with mercy,